The Miami Dolphins are looking like they have the brightest future out of most of the NFL teams right now. Their new starting quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, Devontae Parker, and other key pieces. And most likely having the Defensive Player of the Year, Xavier Howard, cornerback of the Miami Dolphins. But also, they have the third overall pick. They got that pick from Houston, and the Houston trading for Laremy Tunsil for the Miami Dolphins after a single year without Derrick Brown, who they traded Derrick Brown to the Seattle Seahawks. And later on, they would do the same thing with Jadeveon Clowney. But what if I told you the Miami Dolphins might not have that pick? What if I told you that Tua Tagovailoa might not be a Dolphin no longer? You may be wondering, how in God's name would their new quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, the third overall pick that they got from Houston, who, the way it's looking, might ironically be Penny Sewell, who might be the next Jonathan Ogden from Baltimore, which will be very hilarious, since they got rid of Tunsil and now might get Sewell. How I got, and hell, even more draft picks. How could Miami not have all that? Well, remember when I brought up Houston? Well, there's a certain quarterback in Houston who is not happy and might be looking for a new home. Deshawn Watson, the only quarterback who is going to the Pro Bowl who has a losing record. So Kyler Murray does not count because he has an 8-8 record. But Deshaun Watson, a quarterback who has the most passing yards out of any quarterback this entire season, went 12-4. But reversed. They went 4-12. Losing to teams such as the Bengals. Yes, they lost to the Bengals without Joe Burrow. Let that sink in for you. But Deshaun Watson, his best season as a quarterback, he was on a losing team as a third overall pick, which now goes to Miami, but no longer do Houston have DeAndre Hopkins. Now, I could go on and talk about how all this began, which ironically would have been Derrick Brown getting traded to the Seahawks. Yes, Derrick Brown probably was the cause of Jadeveon Clowney, of DeAndre Hopkins, and now the third overall pick. Them even having it, but also that going to Miami. I want to talk about Deshaun Watson. Now, we all know the rumors that Deshaun Watson is not happy with Houston. But there is more. It's reports stated that Miami might be a spot that Deshaun might want to go. But why? Why Miami? When Miami already has their quarterback for the future in Tua, why would Deshaun want to go there? It's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple answer. And the answer is because anything Miami touches, it's better. Miami is a better spot for Deshaun Watson. And what I mean by that, I mean the coaching, the GM, and just a roster around Tua. Let me explain myself. And this truly begins with Brian Flores, the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. This truly begins with only one man, Brian Flores. Yes, Brian Flores. Now you may be wondering, isn't he from the New England staff? Yes. Before 2019, Brian Flores was part of New England. Now you might be wondering, wasn't Bill O'Brien a part of New England? And isn't the new general manager Nick Caserio from New England? You are correct on all of those questions. And you see the difference between Bill O'Brien and Brian Flores is the fact that Bill O'Brien is trying to be Bill Belichick rather than being himself. And it's clearly obvious. Bill Belichick is a special breed in which, unless you have proof that your method works, you can't pull off this cold demeanor. Congratulations, you are part of New England. Were you the one who created the dynasty? No? Then we won't work for you. It only works if your name is Bill Belichick, or perhaps Tom Brady if he pulls the Wayne Gretzky move, trying to be a head coach. Or hell, might pull the Michael Jordan move and become a general manager, where he'll probably pull an MJ and fuck his franchise over. Anyway, there is another thing about Brian Flores, except the part where he's only one of the following two head coaches in the NFL right now who have truly worked out, which is Brian Flores, of course, head coach of the Dolphins, but also Mike Vrabel, who was an actual player who played on New England, then became the defensive coordinator for Bill O'Brien when he was with Houston, and now is the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. And both Flores and Vrabel are great. But that's not a reason why Brian Flores is also great. Because as I'm recording this right now, he's only one of the following two head coaches who is black. Yes, this plays a huge factor. Usually it wouldn't, but this time and age, it plays a huge factor. Except for Mike Tomlin, head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Brian Flores is the only other black head coach. Due to the fact that this offseason, Anthony Lynn was fired for being the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. Why does this matter? The time and era we're in. Deshawn Waston has been a huge impact to the Black Lives Matter. And it's quite inconvenient that Deshaun Watson wants to go to a team with a black head coach, the only black head coach and general manager duo, because the general manager is also black. And it just happens to be that the head coach is from New England, where the previous head coach he was run by from New England was a disaster. Quite convenient, isn't it? Funny how a man who was a huge cause, a huge protester to the Black Lives Matter, wants to go to the organization with the only black GM and black head coach duo. Quite convenient, right? It's like a giant coincidence. Yeah, it is a giant coincidence. Not. Deshawn Watson knows this. Deshawn Watson is an intelligent man. Deshawn Watson is a smart leader. And people are saying Deshawn Watson is not a leader. He is a leader. He's putting his soul into every single game. After all, if he wasn't a great leader and hasn't done all this for the Houston Texans, why in God's name would he have the most passing yards out of any quarterback this season? In the regular season. Convenient, right? I mean, if he truly wasn't a leader, he would have done a holdout. Because how bad his team was. He's not. But Deshaun Watson knows that you only have a small gap to be on a good roster. Because eventually, it goes away like that. The Miami Dolphins are a perfect situation. What do I mean? Well, let me look at this as a great example. The Miami Dolphins have a top 5 defense. Nearly made the playoffs with a 10-6 record. And are having a up-and-coming offense where all the Dolphins really need is a secondary wide receiver, which they could use with the 3rd overall pick. A running back, which they can get in the 2nd round or the 3rd. And for Tua to develop into the starting quarterback like Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert did. But maybe you don't need that. Maybe you don't need Tua to develop to the starting quarterback. Maybe you don't need the running back. Maybe you don't need a true secondary wide receiver when you have Devontae Parker. Think of it like this. If the Miami Dolphins and Houston Texans trade Deshaun Watson for Tua Tagovailoa, the 3rd overall pick, and maybe 2 second-round picks for this year and next year, because I don't see the Dolphins trading away the 18th pick of this year's draft. So they trade 2 second-round picks, Tua, and the 3rd overall pick, which they could get a receiver, Penny Sewell, or anybody. Hell, they might even draft a quarterback. Unlikely, but if they do that, then not only would Miami have their guy in Deshaun Watson, they are still in a position to draft maybe a 2nd wide receiver. Or if they want to stretch it a little bit, maybe go for a running back. Because now you're in a situation where the Dolphins thrive, Deshaun thrives, Houston gets not only their picks back, but higher picks and better picks, more 2nd round picks. And they get a quarterback back in Tua Tagovailoa, who was supposed to be the 1st overall pick if it wasn't for his injury. And that way the Dolphins don't need to worry about drafting another quarterback if Tua does not succeed. And the way he's looking, I'm not saying that Tua is going to be a bust, but right now Tua is not looking the greatest when you compare him to Joe Burrow, the 1st overall pick, and Justin Herbert, the 6th overall pick, who is looking like the offensive, not just the offensive rookie of the year, but rookie of the year. Justin Herbert is looking like rookie of the year, and if he does as well as I think he will be a top 5 quarterback, will be an elite level quarterback. And the Chargers guy for the next decade and however long he's going to play for. Herbert is that good. While Tua still needs development. But would Houston really do that? Well, if the whole allegations are true, that it seems to Deshawn Watson that the Houston Texans are racist due to the original owner passing away a couple of years ago. And the quotes he stated when Kaepernick kneeled, when the anthem played, and how he basically lied to Deshaun Watson when he was going through the process of not only selecting a GM, but talking about head coaches, since he wanted F. Bieniemy to be a head coach. Not even be the head coach, but at least talk to him. Happens to be that Houston was the only team who needed a head coach that didn't talk to Bieniemy. I wonder why. Maybe because Bieniemy is black. Do you think this is a possible trade? Do you think the Dolphins would trade for Deshaun Watson? How much would they give up? Would they even do it? And how far do you think Deshaun Watson will have to push it for Houston to trade him away? Because Deshaun Watson's contract doesn't seem as bad as it seems to be. If I'm Deshaun Watson, I would take full advantage of that contract.